following program is a presentation of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio in iTunes.
And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market. From unusual activity alerts to market updates and trading strategies. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block. With your host, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com and co-hosts Mike Tusaw from KnowYourOptionsInc.com and Mark Sebastian from OptionPit.com. The Option Block is brought to you by Options Express. Don't spend time worrying about your broker. At Options Express, security, stability, and account protection are the most important responsibilities to our customers. Secure account access, enhanced financial protection, entrusted with over $7 billion in customer assets, established financial stability. Options Express lets you trade with confidence. Stocks, options, and futures, all in one account. Trade with a specialist. Visit optionsexpress.com/OXradio to open your free account. Options Express is a member of FINRA, SIPC, and NFA.
Welcome back to the Option Block, and I hope all of our listeners are having a fun and exciting and profitable earnings week. There's a lot going on and a lot to trade into and out of, so I'm sure our listeners have been pretty busy, hopefully on the plus side of the equation and not the minus side of the equation. My name is Mark Longo, and I am your host for this Earnings Palooza roundtable session through the world of options, and I am joined by the usual crew minus one, starting off with the man in the rotating Options Express seat because they couldn't be on the last show, so I'll give you guys pride of place this time. Good old John Griegas from Options Express. John, how is your week going over in OX land?
It's busy. Like I was just saying off the air, we're training for Forex this week. I know last time I was on the show, we had talked about how we were just nearing the point of rolling Forex out, but the training has begun, and it is hectic and it is involved. So we hope to become the specialists that we are in equity options and futures and other derivatives. Apply to Forex. So it's been busy, but I do appreciate the introduction right at the start. And I think there was a Wall Street Journal article on this today as well regarding Forex too. So check that out.
On you guys and Forex?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Forex is definitely the hot thing these days. I'm getting all kinds of invites and requests to be on, panels and talks at various Forex shows around the country. So not many of them really have a good options component yet, which is typically why they come to us. But, the general Forex market is exploding. Yeah, we don't see too much really yet in the Forex options, which is why you guys are doing such a concerted training on the subject right now. And then, of course, we are also joined by the Snowmobile King, the man from the mountains himself, though I'm guessing that snowmobile not getting too much use right now. Good old Uncle Mike Tusaw from Know Your Options Inc. Uncle Mike, how is your week going?
Going well. I have to say that the snowmobiles are definitely summarized for this year, so we're excited about the fact that we're going to get some warm weather, and then, we haven't really gotten too much of that, so we need to work on that.
Tomorrow, 70 degrees and sunny.
Wow. I ask and I'm given right away. You Options Express folks really do everything.
I know that because I'll be outside. Was it Misericordia? Is that how you say it?
Oh, they have an event tomorrow?
Yeah, volunteering from 11:30 to 1:30. So look for the Options Express brokers, some of them, out on the streets tomorrow. So open your wallets.
And with that, we're going to roll right into the trading block.
The Trading Block.
And welcome to the Trading Block. As the name suggests, this is where we discuss what's been trading, what's been catching our eye in the broad market today. And it was a generally upside day for the most part. The S&P closed up nearly 5 handles. Dow closed up 72 points. NASDAQ up 2.5 handles. Good old VIX cash heading back down again to just ticked down to 1461. And so yeah, a lot of interesting things happening in the market today. But before we even dive into that stuff, we kind of use the trading block as some of our current events discussion as well. I just have to bring this up on the show because it's the de rigueur thing in the options market this week, or in the options industry at least, is all this news of yet another exchange entrant throwing its hat into the ring.
We need one of those.
Exactly. These guys over at Miami International Holdings, who are actually a bunch of old Philex guys for the most part. And they've actually been at this for some time. I remember bumping into a few of these guys a couple of years ago, I believe it was, at an event or a conference, and one of them had just left the Philex, and I was asking him what you're doing. He was telling me he was with this Miami group, and he was kind of being very cagey. And I was like, what are you guys doing over there? And he's like, well,
was that Al Brinkman?
Yeah, I was trying not to name names, but yes. Good old Tusaw, right? the velvet hammer of sledgehammering away all subtlety. But yeah, it was Al Brinkman, actually. He had just left the Philex to go over there. And I was asking him, what the hell is Miami International Holdings? And he said, you'll find out. And this is probably like 2 years ago. So they've been on this for quite some time. And these are serious guys who know the business. So I'm assuming they have to see some value added. But I have no choice by this point just to be skeptical that yet another entrant coming in, yet another exchange to, cherry pick the flow, to list, the top 500 and maybe top 1,000 classes, front month ATM and all those series, and maybe second month out, and that's about it. And, cater to these high frequency guys who are typically just flickering quotes for fee arb and really bring very little to the pie in general. And
what's their niche supposed to be?
That's the thing. No one knows.
That's it?
Yeah, no one knows. They say they have technology. Like I said, we've been hearing about these guys for a couple of years now, and in the last week, my phone's just been ringing off the hook. What's going on with Miami? What's going on with Miami? And that's when I knew something was about to break. And sure enough, nothing official yet, but Bloomberg just put out a big piece saying that they are indeed going to be the 10th U.S. options exchange. So, they say, and in the Bloomberg article, which is essentially a bunch of quotes of people commenting on the possibility of there being an exchange. But if it is indeed going to come to pass, they're saying that their value add is technology, which is the same thing that NASDAQ said when they got into the game, the same thing BATS said. So that's kind of an old saw at this point. I don't really know. I don't think anyone knows at this point. They're saying here they're going to do their filing within 3 months. But yeah, so I mean, I don't, at this point, you're going to have yet another exchange, adding fragmented liquidity and the most liquid names and fighting to be 1 or 2% of the market. And call me cynical, maybe, or skeptical, but I find it hard to get excited about something like that. What about you, John? You've been around the block a few times.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you. I mean, they're going to add liquidity to the most liquid products out there. Thanks for the, thanks for the help, guys.
They didn't say that. I'm just assuming that that's where they're going. All these new entrants like NASDAQ and BATS, they're not playing in 100 Delta, little tiny name options. They're playing in front month at the money, Google and Citi and a bunch of other places where, quite frankly, additional liquidity is not necessary.
Yeah, I mean, where we need the spreads, they're not going to go into because of the fact that they don't want to manage that risk, which I kind of understand from a business point. But I'm curious how they get approval if really they're not adding anything to the mix.
As if the SEC ever made that a qualification.
Yeah,
you're adding value.
The SEC is so understaffed right now. Anyway, I mean they can't even enforce or even interpret their own rules, let alone. I should just keep my mouth shut.
You have a little more at stake in that game than maybe I, who can run off at the mouth about the SEC whenever he wants. And then, of course, I just wanted to throw that little chestnut out there for our listeners and for you guys to mull over a little bit because, there's all this talk and now yet another one has emerged from the ether. And it is getting to the point. It's well beyond the point of ridiculous now. It's kind of just getting to the point of absurdity. Everyone's fighting for 0.5%. I guess there's money in that. I don't know where, but
is there any chance that one of these other exchanges might end up folding? I mean, PCOS, the box.
PCOS has been merged into Arc a long time ago.
But I've seen the box's volume just get hit in the last.
Yeah, Box has gone under a lot of changes in the last couple of years, and now they're really trying to focus on retail, at least so they say. And I guess that hasn't been going as well, but I mean, they obviously had that PIP, which has kind of been relegated to the sidelines in penny markets now. You don't really need a PIP. is penny price improvement for our listeners. And so, yeah, that kind of leaves them kind of odd man out. So they're going after the retail, which actually is interesting if they can make that pay off, because there's a lot of rumblings I'm hearing out there now that, on the retail side, that the retail is really being disenfranchised by all these new exchanges going after the high freak guys and all the institutional players and, doing things like the qualified contingent cross and other things that are just so far outside the realm of the retail space. And so much of the volume we're having coming up in the exchanges these days is liquidity that retail can't interact with. And maybe there is a hope or maybe a need for a dedicated retail exchange, whatever, way, shape, or form that might take. But I'm hearing more and more of that kind of scuttlebutt, which I think is actually kind of interesting, and so maybe that'll play into what you guys are doing over at OX these days, and makes somewhere where your customers can maybe get a little bit safer execution or better execution than what they're getting now. Maybe. Well, who knows? It's all pie in the sky, but it's kind of interesting. And there is other stuff going on in the market right now. Of course, we have breaking news is there's a bunch of earnings coming out right now, and right now we have Microsoft coming out after the close, and looks like pretty much closed at 26.71, and it's trading 26.10 in the after hours right now. So good old if they're out already, then maybe they're not out yet. I have to assume they're not out yet, because this is pretty nominal even for Microsoft, which doesn't tend to move that. And then we had good old Kodak announced before the open today, and talk about how the mighty have fallen. This is they had an 80%, 90% monopoly on film not that long ago, and now they're trading below $3. So Kodak, not exactly the best of times for them. They screwed the proofs this morning. We also have Motorola coming out right now, good old MMI, and looks like they're trading slightly to the upside in the after hours. Let's see if their news has come out.
Yeah, Microsoft did come out too, 61 cents looks like.
Really? Yeah, Motorola, yeah, they beat the street, but for Motorola, but they're up 50 cents in the after hours. So yeah,
and Microsoft down 50 cents. So we got some big movers.
Big movers thing. Now,
yeah.
And Kodak still hoping that digital thing is a fad and wears out. So
yeah, Kodak. Well, I guess they're making some strides in printers and a few other areas that are interesting, and some of their cameras are interesting, But yeah, they've taken one too many beatings. Motorola, I was watching that all day. I was kind of hovering on the 24 strike, and I was trying to work some very tight strangles on there, because I know this one doesn't tend to move that much, and if there is much risk, it was risk to the downside, because there was just a lot of bearish perception on this one. And but the market makers are just fading me all day. They were not going to buy vol going into this earnings, no matter what I did, no matter how I came down on my offers. And finally I was like, I'm not going to give premium away going into an earnings announcement. So I just canceled altogether. But it was just even the no one wanted to buy vol going into these earnings, and it looks like that was a good play for them, because this thing is trading almost unched. So yeah, a lot of excitement. What about Mr. Tusaw? What about the silver front? Let me just guess before I even look. Let me guess. Silver was up today. Oh yes, I was right.
I'll tell you what, it made me think of John a lot today in terms of day trading. It's funny, I was talking with a client today, and there was one stock that we were in. It worked out well for a collar. It was just a old school traditional collar we were in. Long the stock at 50, stock's at like 56 right now, and we did the 45-55 collar on it for May. I'm like, you know what? This is just how collars are meant to be. Nice and boring, relaxing, and it worked out well. We made money. We had our protection in place. This is what I intended all of my gold and silver collars to be a couple years ago when I got into them. And just with what's been going on with silver, it's amazing the daily activity that I've gone through. I'm not going to call myself a financial advisor anymore. I'm just a silver broker these days, it feels like, just because of all the attention I've had to put on it in terms of rolling up calls, looking to see what can be the next level of protection and that type of thing. And it's just been amazing with what's going on. Because if you look at what happened today, for example, we were up at 48.35 for a while. That was the high of the day. Low of the day was 46.12, and that was a boring day in comparison to yesterday. There's just been so much movement on. It's definitely, I'm curious to hear some of the stories that John has. I'm talking with some of the clients on trading the silver future side of it, but it's just been amazing with the daily movement that's been going on with these things.
Yeah, I mean, in the morning, the first thing I do is start checking my email on the train on the ride in, and I can tell if silver has moved just by looking at how many margin call emails I have in my inbox on my phone. This morning was approaching 100, and I go, okay, silver's moving. Because, I mean, it's always one product that seems to be in the limelight or the spotlight. For a while it's crude, then it's gold. Cotton 6 months ago, you can see cotton selling off a little bit today. But, the amount of people that are funneling into silver right now, I mean, they got too many contracts. Is extraordinary. Look at the volume over the last week and a half. I mean, people are piling into it, and I saw people piling in at 46, 47 last week, and I thought they were crazy. But I mean, like Mark said, it just wants to go up, But for day trading, I mean, you could scalp in here. You can make hundreds of dollars in tenths of a second on one contract. It's amazing.
We were joking on the last show about selling 62 calls for a quarter, but this keeps up. Those are going to be ATM calls pretty soon.
Yeah, about 9 months ago, I was talking to a guy, and he was like, I mean, I could pull the call. I said, John, this is free money. He was selling the 40 calls, and we were trading below $20. We were like right at 19. He was selling the 40 calls for $600. And he's like, it's never. I think he sold about 6 of them. He's like, it's never going to go up there. Not only did it go up there, it went up there like immediately. It just didn't stop. I mean, you got to be careful selling premium. I'm a big fan of selling insurance, not buying it. But sometimes I don't know when you think when you say out loud to somebody, it can't do that. It can't make that up to $40. It can't double in 9 months. Well, guess what? It's most likely going to try to do it.
Well, there's an old adage that we always tell clients, and you guys have probably heard this on the floor before. Well, yeah, I sold those out of the money put options, and the market went way down, but who could have possibly predicted that? And then the answer to that is the person who bought them.
Yep. I remember in 2007, when some of the brokers at Options Express weren't really into futures and futures options, and we came over from Express Trade, they were saying, "Are you telling me I can sell?" And it was an E-mini S&P futures options put. And it was like $500, maybe even $800. It was 400, 500, 600 points out of the money. And he's like, we would have to have a 30% drop in the S&P for me to even touch that strike. Not only did we touch it, we blew right past it. It would have been tens of thousands of dollars in losses the guy would have had if he had done it just to pick up $500 that he thought was, in his mind, a sure winner. So, I mean, it does happen. It's happening now.
Yeah, it's happening right now. And yeah, while we're talking, I'm looking at some of these after hours movements in these names. And yeah, good old Microsoft. So exciting. It's hovering right at the 26 strike, like almost exactly. It's unbelievable. If you sold that straddle for $1 something before you went out, or the Iron Condor or the Iron Fly or anything like that, yeah, you're going out right on your strike. Good old predictable Microsoft. That's going to close out the old trading block. And with that, we're going to roll right into the odd block.
The Odd Block.
And welcome to the old Odd Block. This is the section of the show where we discuss the interesting and or the unusual and sometimes the downright frightening options activity that's lighting up the tape today. And as you might expect, the bulk of what we're seeing these days is earnings-related activity. So we're trying to find a few that fall outside that realm whenever possible. It's a difficult task during the height of earnings season, but we're going to start things off with Equinix Inc., EQIX. They closed at $99.12, up $2.52 today. This is the name that does an average daily volume of about 2,300 contracts. They did over 68,000 today. And what we saw, essentially what this was the unwinding of an enormously profitable call fly that a guy put on back at the end of last year in December. We had a write-up about this guy coming in December and picking up the June 85, 100, 115 call fly for $3.10. And this guy is now taking it off for a substantial winner. This stock had earnings. Let's see, they beat the analyst expectations earlier, so I think it was actually today or yesterday. So that increased to their movement to the upside. This guy was actually planning for the fly to pay off a little bit later, but he'll take his money when he can get it. And so this guy, actually towards right almost the end of the year, December 29th, he put this fly on. He put on today he came in and he sold out. So he did this 15,000 times, 15 by 30 by 15 back in December, and now he closed it out today. So he generated 60,000 contracts in this one trade, and he closed it out today, selling the now in the money June 85s for 16.20. He bought back the June pars for 30,000 times for 4.70, and then he sold 15,000 of the June 115s for 30 cents. That brought in 710, and he, after all his commissions and everything like that, he guy made about $4 a contract, or about $6 million in total. So not a bad little butterfly play that he put on here in Equinix.
Less than 6 months to work. I'm sure he'll take it, right?
Yeah, I'll take it. I mean, he could have made more, obviously, if it had risen a little bit more slowly to hit his numbers, but I don't think anyone's going to be arguing with that kind of payoff. You know, it's the oldest lesson in trading: never argue with a winner. Take it off your books, take the money and run.
Yeah, especially when
trade, right?
Take the money and run. Beautiful. Yeah, especially when it happens early like that. I mean, I always see people that they're like, oh, I gotta leave this on because my strategy was to wait till this period of time until I can realize my max gain. Heck no, man. Nobody ever went to the poorhouse by taking off winners.
Yeah, I mean, I always refer to these as really good problems to have.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of them in silver lately, but a similar concept. Don't be stupid. If there's a profit there, yes, I know you originally wanted in your brain to have this expire exactly at the short strike price and have a nice perfect world, but perfectionism has no place in trading oftentimes.
Yeah, it's a good lesson for the listeners, just in general, that not just you take your profits when they come. Don't think that you paid for all this time. You might as well get the full amount of time on it, because generally that tends to work against you. And then, from moving from a profitable fly closing to some across the board earnings, actually post earnings plays here in the next name, Office Max OMX. They closed at $10 even, down $2.50, or down about 20% on the day. As you might guess from those numbers, they missed their earnings, and not a good day for OMX holders. But we saw some interesting, diverse paper flow in this one coming in today. We saw almost immediately some contrarians coming in thinking that this sell-off, this 20% sell-off was overdone, and they were picking up these now relatively cheap ODM calls in the front month. Looks like, let's see here on the May. Oh, this is a name, just by the way, this is a name that does about 1,700 contracts a day. They did nearly 30,000 today. And a lot of the activity started off on the May 11th strike. We saw, about 3,500 in total, almost of those going up on an open interest previous to that, or open interest prior to that of just 15 contracts. So not much going on that strike prior to today. And the bulk of these were actually picked up. They were purchased for about 51 cents. So these are near-term upside calls and people making a quick spec that the sell-off on good old OMX is overdone. And another about almost 4,000 actually of the May 12s traded as well on a previous open interest, just about 700 contracts. That strike was a little bit more mixed. It wasn't pure bulls coming into spec. It was a mix of buyers and sellers. Maybe some pre-earnings bulls were closing out their losers to close out as well. So there was a more mixed activity on that strike. And also we saw on the other side of the spectrum, we saw bears coming in thinking that indeed 20% is not enough for OMX. It needs to go down further. We saw about
those May 11s.
Yeah, the May 11s, exactly. Started off, and our write-up here says 1,000, but actually on the end of the day, 4,000 total on the day. So a lot of bears coming in. Obviously not all of that was buyers, but a bulk of that, at least 1,000 of those were picked up for about $1.03 earlier in the session. So a good chunk of that 4,000 appears to be opening bearish activity. The open interest on that strike as well, 769 contracts. It just goes to show this is the name that just had earnings, and they still have strikes, at-the-money strikes that have 700 contracts open interest. So this is obviously not a name that swings a lot of volume on a given day. So each one of these trades is probably several days' worth of volume for this name. And we also saw people rolling out a little bit to August, and the good old AUG 9 puts went up 10,000 times today, almost 2/3 of those, or 3/4, 7,500 of them traded early in the session, being picked up for about nearly 39 to 40 cents a pop. So the bulk of those were bearish plays as well. So looks like the bulk of the paper today was actually thinking that the sell-off has more room to run, and some of these guys are actually giving themselves a lot of time to do it. So depending on your opinion, there's a lot of paper going up right now in Office Max. Any of you guys watch this one? You active in the office retail space?
I don't really watch it, but you can see that, Office Max hit just off their 52-week low at 967. So you get a lot of people that, one, will look at it as support, and two, think that, there's more downside room because it's going to hit it and then fall through and possibly look for further support. But, as far as Office Max, and, I don't patron that place too often. But man, that's some huge volume on those August $9 puts. And you believe that they were rolling out to the 9, or do you think that was just a straight put buy? Because you said they were coming in around 39 to 40 cents.
Yeah, it looks like a straight buy. The bulk of them. Yeah, I mean, there's no signs
there's
of
some bears then.
Yeah, so there's some substantial long-term bears. I mean, it could be, of course, if you're hedging yourself, you kind of miss the ball game a little bit. You might want to hedge before earnings next time. But even though you're rolling out to August, but still, I would think if you were a large underlying owner and you wanted to protect yourself against adverse earnings, you probably would do it before today. But I guess this guy, maybe he's seeing that he's agreeing with some of this bearish playing, and he could be an underlying owner wanting to protect himself against further downside. Who knows? But that is a sizable bearish play indeed. And then we're closing it out with another big name. Good old JetBlue, JBLU. And this one closed the day at $5, a whole $5.62. Up 6 cents, or about 1% on the day. And this is a name, as you might guess, not exactly super active. Usually they do about 1,300 contracts a day. They did about 10,500 today. And looks like the bulk of this actually was in long-term stuff, actually. We're seeing a lot of players moving out here into December, where the D7s were the option of the day. They went up 8,700 times almost on the day on a previous open interest of 10 contracts. So opening paper on the D7s, the bulk of these, over 5,500, were purchased for about 30 cents. The rest were in various prices around that. So a lot of opening buying paper on JetBlue rolling out. So kind of the polar opposite of what we just saw in Office Max. In that JetBlue, people thinking that 562 is not where the stock's going to be hovering for long. And it really was just that one bulk trade that lit up the tape today in JetBlue. Not too much other paper. I don't follow this airline particularly. I watch some of the other ones a little more actively than I have tried to fly on them a few times, and they don't really fly any of the places I want to go. So they're not exactly very useful to me. But you guys keeping an eye on JetBlue at all?
I don't know. If you like the stock, I don't know it either, nor have I ever flown on it, nor do I have any clients in it, or do I own it myself. But if you like the stock, that's an interesting covered call play because of the fact that if it's at $5.50 right now, 30 cents isn't bad for something that far out of the money, if you like the stock.
Yeah, I mean, if you have it now and you want to put it on, this guy obviously was not putting on covered calls. The bulk of these were buys, but yeah.
Right.
If you want
You're on the opposite side, yeah.
I mean, if I went into this stock, I would definitely want to have some sort of mitigation of downside exposure at this point, because with oil teetering on the upside of its range and looking to go higher, that's obviously the main risk factor for owning an airline stock like this. And so, yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big fan in general of, granted this is a nominal stock, so you kind of have to go out a little bit to get any sort of bang for your buck. But I'm not a big fan of writing D's covered calls usually when we're trading in May front month,
Well, I mean, it would be one to where if you you'd have to own the stock and be bullish on it over a longer period of time, to where even if it didn't go that much, you have it. But in looking at that, something that far out of the money, 30 cents is 30 cents, and it's not a ton, but that's just kind of like it would have to be like a staple stock in your portfolio.
That's Uncle Mike's bit of wisdom for the day. 30 cents is 30 cents. I like that. That could be that should go on your business cards.
That's not a bad idea.
I like it. Trademark pending.
Know Your Options, Inc. 30 cents is 30 cents.
Instead of what was that wrapper? 50 cent? Probably 30 cents.
You're almost as good as him. Not quite, but you're getting there.
There we go.
With that image of Mike Tusaw as a rapper floating around in our heads, we'll close out the odd block.
Instead of Tusaw, I'll be Tupac.
I think that might be taken. I'm not sure. I'll have to check.
Oh, yeah.
That guy keeps putting out posthumous
New
records. Gotta love it. Where are they digging these things up from at this point? They must have had them in his shoe somewhere. Who knows? But, yeah. With that, we're going to close out the old odd block and roll right into the Grigas block. Oh, I mean the Express block.
The Express Block, brought to you by Options Express. Options Express lets you trade where and when you want for every level of trading, from advanced charting, free daily trading ideas, and free educational resources. Options Express is the online broker for all traders. Best of all, Options Express allows you to trade stocks, options, and futures all in a single account on powerful yet easy-to-use trading platforms, including mobile devices. Visit optionsexpress.com/OXradio for your free account. Options Express is a member of FINRA, SIPC, and NFA.
And welcome to the Express Block. This is the section of the show where John Grigas takes the reins and goes off to the races. And so, sir, what do you have on the docket for us today?
Well, I know we had talked about silver earlier in the show, so I don't want to feel that we're beating silver into the ground, but it is a hot topic. It is what a lot of our calls are generated around. It is a lot of what my supervisor calls. We refer to them here at Options Express where somebody's unhappy. And so, I'm spending a large part of my week discussing silver, so I thought I'd go over some things that, might help people that are just getting into silver, or people who are unfamiliar with, being blown out intraday on a futures position. Some of the calls I'm getting today, people, first-time traders, and I know for Mark and Mr. Tusaw being seasoned traders, you hear like when the retail clients start getting into anything, it's usually a top, right? They're like, I got to get by in the silver. And that's kind of the sense I'm feeling here, but I feel silver still has some room to go, so I'm not too worried about this being the top, and I don't like to call tops, but I have a lot of people that have never traded before, or they're new to futures, and they're running right into the market. Okay, here's my $5,000. What's the most I can buy with it? Okay, one thing I always like to tell people is that you have to have a trading plan to begin with. Okay, and that the market's always going to be there. There's always going to be opportunity. If it's not silver, it's going to be something else. And of course, you're going to be mad if you maybe make money in the virtual trade and you say, I should have done that for real. This guy's an idiot for telling me to practice trading before I went live. But there's always going to be chances to make money. There's always going to be chances to lose money. But I've seen people talk to them on Monday, literally approve the account on Monday, walk them through how to place a trade. And I've told them all this. You need a trading plan. Where's your exit and entry? Take virtual trading. It's very sophisticated. It's exactly like the platform. Virtual trading is a great tool. I know Mark and Mike will both agree. For new traders, it's something that they should do. I talked to the guy next day. He's on margin call. He's telling me how to put in a stop. Well, guess what? That question should have appeared in our conversation the day before. All right. A trading plan is very important. You need to know where you're getting in, where you're getting out, where your target is. Just don't put something on, go out to dinner, and then come back and start wondering, hey, what does a maintenance margin mean? In the big silver contract right now, which is the COMEX, which is the one that people trade, I'm not even sure if people trade the old CBOT contract anymore, the big life contract as they call it. But the exchange minimum is approximately $12,500 for silver. Options Express, because of the volatility, we actually put a multiplier on there. So you're required to have about 15.4 to place an order in the big silver. Maintenance is 11,400. Okay, so for new traders, I know this is kind of fundamental stuff for us here on the show, but you're required to have 15,400 to put it on. All right, market's moving around. You're required to have 11.4 to maintain it. Okay, if it drops below that, you get a margin call. Okay, what we do at Options Express is we email you a letter. It says, hey, you're on margin call. You have to bring your account back up to initial. So the difference between 11.4 and 15.4, you got to bring in $4,000 roughly. Okay, now that doesn't mean you get the 2 to 3 days to write us a check or an ACH or even a wire or call us up and say you need extra time. Okay, that means that at this moment in time when we're sending you an email, Okay, you are in margin call, and you need to bring your account back up to initial. Now, if the market continues to fall, there's something that we call here at Options Express a critical liquidating value. Okay, and that marker is 34%. Once you drop below that, you receive another email that stated critical liquidating value. That means we're going to close out your positions. Okay, we may not get to it at 34%. We may get to it at 22%. I've seen us close people out debit. Okay, futures trading, you can go debit. I know it's maybe not familiar when you're buying options or buying equity options or stock or even Forex for that matter, because they'll close your account out before, or close your positions out before it goes debit. But you can go debit in futures trading. So a lot of my calls have been, I'm day trading. I get to the end of the day before you guys can close me out because I'm a day trader, and I'm day trading silver. Well, that's not the case. Realize with any futures, not just silver, but with any futures, you can be blown out of a position intra-market or intraday, especially with the volatility in silver and in the crude and gold and cotton, who's gone limit up. If you're a new trader, maybe you don't want to go into the one that's making the headlines on the news at 10 o'clock at night. Maybe you want to start with something like mini grains, or if you have to go into silver and you have a little bit of depth in the pockets, like, hey, I can't afford a big silver contract. I have $15,000, $20,000 in the account. I should go right for the big contract. No, maybe you should start small and work your way up. I told this guy yesterday, he's like, oh, I'm never going to get this money back. I'm like, you still have enough to trade mini silver. Okay? You trade mini silver, right? You get enough to trade 2, now you put 2 on. I mean, that's how I did it when I traded at a prop firm. They always started out at 1 contract. Okay? And every week that I made money, I would increase my contracts. Went from 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8. Okay? And of course I was playing with someone else's money, so it wasn't that stressful for me. But I slowly worked my way up to like 120, 130 contracts, and that was serious money. But it took me months to get there, and it should take people a long time to work up even to a big contract. I mean, the market's going to be there. Work on your strategy. Have a percentage of 75 to 85% where you're right all the time, because you have to cover your costs. Okay, that way you become a successful trader. I'd say the worst thing that could happen to someone is that they put on a trade. On their first trade, it becomes a winner, because then they think they know what they're doing. And day trading is hard. And I think Mr. Tusa was asking, is there day trading margins on silver? And there is not, which is a great question, because I had that exact same question about 3 hours ago. And they say, hey, you offer it for some of these products. Why not for some of these products? Well, that's a fair question, but look at it from a risk standpoint. You have one of the craziest markets in silver since the 80s, when the market was trying to be cornered. Okay, giving day trade margin gives you more leverage, and it's a double-edged sword. Yes, you can do better, have more contracts, make more money, but you can lose money just as quickly. Put your account debit or put it to an area where you're uncomfortable, and then you got to have a sit-down conversation with the wife. So I may be coming across a little harsh, but I want people to realize that silver and high volatility commodities is serious trading, and if they need to start small, they need to use tight stops. If they need to use the mini contract, if they need to virtual trade it for a week or 2 or even a month, and work on their plan and be successful, and then move it over to the minis and then maybe to the bigs, and then double a contract. I mean, you can make serious money that way, and the way I've seen it is that's the way you need to do it. It's not just jumping in full force. I'm a new trader. I need to get in now because I see other people making money. Yeah, they've been making money because they got in at 37 and 38 and 40. Okay, now we're trading at 48 and 49. Maybe wait for a pullback. But I feel like I'm running on a tangent here. But a lot of my calls this week have all been about silver, and the people that are making money obviously don't need to call in and speak with me. But the people that are getting margin calls and don't understand it, these are questions you want to ask us, licensed brokers, prior to putting these trades on. We're here to help you. We want to see you make money because then we do better. So please call us with the questions on when do you blow people out? What are the trading, hours? Is there day trading margin? How much time do I have to meet a margin call? These are all great questions. We've been getting a lot of them, but we'd like to see more. We don't want to have to go through these questions when we've already taken people out of a position from our risk department.
So you'd say the bulk then of the calls coming in, obviously a lot of them are silver related, but probably 80-90% of them are the futures as opposed to SLV problems.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I actually have a futures trader that called me a few times, and he's like, hey, what do you know about this SLV options? And I said to him, it's widely popular. I think at that time, we looked at the May 50 calls, and this was at like 11 this morning. They had already done 35,000 in volume on that strike alone. So SLV options, widely popular. And I said to him, I go, the people that aren't trading futures, that are scared of futures or they don't want to venture into it, are trading SLV and SLV options. I mean, SLV is an ETF that's weighted in 100% silver bullion. So, I mean, they're tracking the silver market. So if you're a little hesitant to get in the futures, which you should be, for silver and silver futures, everything else is pretty much been normal the last couple of weeks. SLV options are a great alternative.
SLV, I mean, it's just been lighting up the tape ridiculously lately. I mean, we talked.
Look at the chain on the front month. I mean, the volumes on there are just incredible.
It's obscene. I'm looking at. I mean, even with all these numbers, the ADV is still only 320. I mean, I say only, but I mean, like, look at today's volume. The ADV is 320,000 contracts. It did 1.25 million contracts today. This thing is just on a tear that is just hard to believe.
Yeah, that May 50 call that I referenced. The volume, late this morning, did almost 54,000 contracts on that strike. It's unbelievable. And look at the weighted how much volume we have in the calls compared to the puts. I mean, it just seems like people are.
And unlike something like a Citi, which is essentially just high freak guys coming in and gaming back and forth, I imagine the bulk of these contracts, because it is so volatile, there actually is legitimate economic intent. Citi, this is not a name where you can come in and do fee arb relatively easily without risking blowing out.
Yeah, correct. Speaking of Citi, did you guys talk about Citigroup last week?
Oh, we did a little bit about the impact of the reverse split.
Yeah, I just want to make sure you guys.
We touched on it. Yeah, it was coming up May 6th, so next week I believe, and that'll be an interesting one to watch because in fact we talked and we talked about putting on maybe some positions on the June 4 half strike just because I anticipate the vol would probably increase after something like this, and you can put your positions on now and have them reverse up to the 45 level, or just put it on after the reverse split. And
remember what AIG did, right? I mean, that thing was vol shot through the roof in the days following that reverse split.
Yeah, Sebastian and I came to the same decision at the exact same time, which is always kind of scary that I'm thinking on his wavelength about putting on that June 4 half straddle. So we do have a position on there now, and we actually put that on a while ago, and it's just kind of coming into fruition now in terms of that seems to be the place to be these days. But yeah, Citi, I'd imagine all these fee arbors and everyone else, they're really scrambling to find a replacement for this name because, we're also going to find a nice $4.50 relatively stable name, low vol, low price, so your risk is relatively low that you can arb in and out of all day and just capture things like the, 50-cent NBBO rebate on the BATS options exchange. Not many places you can do that, not many names like this, and so they're going to be hurting for a while until they find a replacement. Of course, SLV is not that name. Don't get into that thinking you could do wash sales without much risk. That would blow out most high freak firms, I think, in a few minutes. All right, thank you for that, John. That was very interesting. All right, with that, we're going to close out the old Express block and roll right into Around the Block.
Around the Block.
And welcome to Around the Block. This is the section of the show where we discuss what's going on our block right here, a few blocks from Harpo Studios and Oprah. We are still coming for you. But no, this is actually where we talk about the things and the trading sessions and the earnings and the announcements and the economic activity and everything else we have on our trading radar and our trading screen for the next few sessions. And as you can imagine, given that we are in the height of earnings season, the leading things catching most people's eyes these days are indeed earnings. And let's just do one more quick rundown before I close the books on them for both Microsoft and Motorola. Microsoft, it's a whole 26.22 now, down 50 cents at the after hours. And Motorola, let's see, 24.40. That one closed at $24, so up 40 cents. So yeah, if you were a vol seller in both of these names, you did all right, it looks like, going into these earnings. And so yeah, those are some of the big names that were coming out today. We were hoping for a little bit more pop Next week, there's some fun names coming out. Good old Leapfrog. So if you're a new parent, that's a name you're certainly familiar with. They're coming out next week. And then one Mr. Grigas and I like to joke about all the time. Good old Tesla. They're coming out on Wednesday. Have you reinitiated your downside puts on this one? Your short puts?
I have not. No, I started getting into the weeklies again in Priceline and what was the other one? Google. Man, they're just some of those weeklies are just too inviting.
You're slinging Google weeklies now?
I did. I ventured into Google and Priceline back to back. But I mean, you only got 3 days. It's all or nothing, baby.
You're just sitting on margin to throw away, aren't you?
I actually, quick funny story is that we can't give everyone the last minute to close out their options on expiration. Well, now it's become a weekly thing because every Friday is expiration. And I was sitting in a Google loser on their earnings day. That was just a downtrend. I mean, it made lows and just kept making lows into the close. And I bought some 305 calls in the morning, and I was like, they're going to peg this thing either at 300 or like 310. So and of course it's 300. But I bought the 300 calls. I apologize. So I'm like, they're going to either do this at 300 or 310. So I'm either going to make everything or lose everything. And at about 2:45, 15 minutes before the close, my cell phone starts ringing, and it's one of the risk managers in El Paso. And so I did, obviously did not answer the phone. I just IM him and I say, "Hey, time to get out, isn't it?" And he goes, "Yep." We always do it to the customers where we reach out, we see them in the account, we try to make calls, we try to get in contact with them, like, "Hey, you can't take on this $500,000 position because you only got $3,000 in the account," or something like that. But I was getting that call that I was dreading. I go, "Oh, they want me out." So
the internal margin call, that's always must be a fun one. Maybe you should use Thinkorswim or something for some of those trades where you don't want the rest of the crew to know what you're up to.
Yeah, I know. It was kind of embarrassing,
Do it on a mobile app, do E-Trade or something, just so they can't track what you're doing. All of a sudden they'll be like, "Oh, Grigas." You probably have a special little window on the risk management side, and it pops up like, "Oh, Grigas is at it again." 100 Delta Google calls. Here we go.
Pretty much. Pretty much. Yeah, it was like an 85 Delta or something. At least it was in the morning. But it didn't work out on that one. So.
Well, aside from 100 Delta stock replacement in Google, what are you watching this for the going into the weekend and early next week, Mr. Tusa?
A couple things. My beloved energy stocks, a lot of them have earnings next week. Chesapeake Energy, Stone, Petrohawk, just to name a couple. So definitely be watching them. Some of them are hedged, some of them are not, just depending on the client and how we're set up. But yeah, I think that it'll be interesting to see how the energy sector fares throughout this upcoming earnings season next week with energy earnings. And then Cisco, we've talked a lot about them. They have earnings coming up next Wednesday. Actually, that's still a couple of weeks away. So nonetheless,
Cisco's a little bit farther off.
Yeah, that's the week after, actually. So yeah, just continuing to watch.
That'll be an interesting one because there is, the bulls have been piling in since it broke 20 essentially, and yet it's just continued to issue downside surprise after downside surprise, and it continues to frustrate these bulls who keep piling in. I have a long and very dark track record with Cisco, so I won't comment on it. But I haven't been piling in here. But I wrote Cisco down back in the good old post-bubble days when it went from, the ridiculous levels down to the, I think sub $10 levels at some point. I got out along that road, but that was everyone has their painful bubble experience, and that was definitely mine.
Yeah, and they're dropping the flip camera line. I mean.
Oh yeah, that's right. You weren't on when we talked about that. You and I were talking about the flips. That's right.
I had two defective ones in less than like 9 months, so I had to send them back.
Really?
Yeah, so most of the time
you're the one. You're the complaints. You pushed them over the edge.
Yeah, and I was like, this is ridiculous. They don't even make quality products, and then then I'm buying their stock below 20 with everybody else. So
they bought that thing for how many was it 500 or 900 million? Did they spend on the flip? Tucson, do you remember?
Don't have it in front. It
was somewhere in that range. It was like 500 or 900 million. Within the last 2 years, they bought that division, and rather than spin it off, I mean, they were pushing it pretty heavily. Towards the end of last year, going into the holiday season, there were flip ads everywhere. If you lived in Chicago, there were flip ads on every bus and every bus stop that you walk past. So they spent heavily promoting that brand. And yet, when it comes time after, I guess,
right.
obviously,
sell it or spin it off.
Yeah, sell it off, spin it off, do something with it. Just, I mean, obviously, I'm not privy to the internal analytics on what drove that decision. Maybe there were tax reasons for it to shut it down, but it is very rarely the most economically advantageous decision to just shut down a division. You think to spin it off or do something. At what point do you have to be like, wow, I had to be at least $500 million on this thing, and to just shut it down within 2 years? What does that say about your initial due diligence on that brand and on that? I hope whoever purchased Flip has been long since given the heave-ho.
He's gone.
It didn't take a genius to realize that, smartphones are catching up pretty quick. And the days of a standalone camcorder were kind of limited. I mean, I bought one, you bought one recently, primarily for our wives, I believe, and that's where the bulk of this audience was going, that market was going. They were aiming at the wife and grandparent market, I believe.
Absolutely, because that ease of use, that pop-up USB, I was like, what is this?
That big, ridiculous red button. I bought it for her, and she still doesn't use it. I don't know. Maybe that was the downfall for them. I don't know. I end up using it more than her. So, c'est la vie. But, yeah, that just that decision, and that's a minor part of Cisco's overall financials, but still, it doesn't bode well for the quality of the management team over there, and John Chambers and those guys. He's been around for a while there too, so maybe it's time for a bit of a shakeup over at Cisco. I mean, their core products are doing well, but you have Juniper and other firms nipping at their heels pretty strongly. So yeah, I don't know if. I still tend to agree with Mr. T that I would probably lean on the bullish as opposed to the bearish side of the equation. I'm not going out loading up on 17 puts or anything like that, but. Yeah, I don't know. Cisco keeps it always has the capacity to break hearts, this one. I'll just say that.
Spoken like a broken-hearted man.
Yes, exactly. Cisco is not one for long-term relationships. Cisco will wine you and dine you and then break your heart rather rudely and move on to the next sucker. All right. With that, well, Mr. Griggs, what do you want?
Sorry, thought you forgot about me. I look at the economic numbers that we have coming out tomorrow. There are a few of them. Let's see here. I think we got
economic numbers. What are those? Who watches those anymore?
I come from the floor of the Board of Trade, so I mean, it's all numbers and this earnings thing. I'm still trying to.
Yeah. Once the S&P downgrade just got shrugged off, what other number is relevant at this point?
That's a great point. I think we rallied that day too. No, actually we
didn't rally. We closed down. We closed down, but
150 points.
Yeah, far less than it had been throughout the day.
No, and all that really happened is that when we were down over 200 points, it was just met with more buyers. But that being said, inflation's kind of coming back in. So you got PCE, Chicago PMI, Michigan sentiment tomorrow. But more importantly, on April 30th, we do have our Chicago area workshop for Options Express. So I know we have majority of probably our retail clients that are in the area, headquartered in Chicago, right off the Franklin and Monroe. The Chicago area workshop is on the 30th from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. You can register on our website by going to Educate, Events, and then clicking on Live Events. It is free. That's it for me.
Perfect. That's going to do it for this Around the Block segment. And it's also going to do it for this episode of the Option Block. I want to thank my partners in crime for joining me on this episode. And starting with you, Mr. T and your woman, what is going on over at Know Your Options, Inc.?
Did you say me and my woman?
That's that movie we were joking about, Dr. T and the woman. Remember, that's an old joke from like the early episodes. I thought maybe you would remember it, but
gotcha. I'm like, my wife and I we were having dinner with a friend tonight. I guess you want to stop, we're gonna barbecue. That's what's going on. But
you killed the flow of my humor, sir, yet again. All right, let's just what's going on at Know Your Options?
Boy, I really screwed up this one. But anyway. This weekend, we've got a couple webinars going on. Sunday night, we're going to be talking about option time frame selection. Monday night, we'll be talking about strike price selection. So stop by our website, and we'd love to give you some more information on it.
And Mr. Grigas, you mentioned that expo that is indeed, or the workshop. That's on Saturday that's coming up. That'll be Joe and the gang walking all the customers through the nuances of the platform. Am I correct?
That's correct. Yep. And if you can't make the live event, remember we have a lot of free webinars on the website. Some of them are reoccurring. Some of them are coaching, trading options, learning to trade. Some of them are from some of our partners, so the third-party ones, which kind of gives it a little bit different aspect instead of just continually talking about the website and hearing Joe Cusack and his webinars. One of the ones that I like the most, that we get a lot of futures traders that follow this commentary and newsletter that we offer for free on the website. It's the Monthly Futures Outlook with Jim Wyckoff. That is on May 3rd at 1 p.m. Eastern. If you're interested in futures and you need a little bit of rundown, or you're a veteran futures trader, I would definitely recommend that for pretty much everybody.
And that's in addition to the old espresso you guys put out every day.
Every day, yep.
You guys are cranking on the futures content. So, yeah, the OX customers can swing by the mothership. That's going to be in the headquarters? Where's that going to be, that live event on Saturday?
I'd have to check with education, but I believe it's in one of the many hotel lobbies that we have down here.
Yeah. So
it's not in the office. No.
Just look for John Grigas with his Misericordia cup, and he will direct you to the.
Ask me tomorrow. I'll be out. I'm in Rowan LaSalle tomorrow from 11:30 to 1:30. So
there you go. Give your donations only to John Grigas and tell him you're an Option Block listener, and you give him at least a nickel in his cup for his for his due diligence there. And, of course, I will throw a plug to Mr. Sebastian, even though he is off touring with the mini metals and teaching vertical call spreads to retirees down in Naples. But visit OptionPit.com for all of his many, many happenings and classes and goings-on he has going on over there. And, of course, if you want to learn more about any of the unusual activity or the breaking options news, such as the record 10th exchange announcing their entrance into the options market, or any of the other interesting things we discussed on today's show, surf on over to theoptionsinsider.com. As usual, you can post your questions or comments for the hosts. You also listen to many of the other shows we have there on the old Options Insider Radio Network, like Volatility Views and our flagship Options Insider Radio show, which we will be doing another explosion of content and episodes from the upcoming Options Industry Conference in a couple of weeks down in Savannah, Georgia. So a lot to check out over on theoptionsinsider.com. I want to thank all of our listeners for downloading and streaming and subscribing to this show and making it such a success. And we'll see you next time right here on the Option Block.
Become a part of the Option Block. Just visit www.theoptionsinsider.com/forum to post a question for the hosts. You can also submit questions to twitter.com/optionblock or leave a voicemail at 312-544-9356. Make it interesting and your question just might make it on the air. The Options Block is property of the Options Insider Incorporated. All rights reserved. preceding program was a presentation of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com/radio or search for Options Insider Radio in iTunes.